Hi guys, welcome to the very first Saint Sisters podcast. It's Dinah from Saint Sisters, and I'm super excited to say that this is our very first face-on-face interview with an extremely inspiring lady who we were very lucky to have the chance to sit down and have a chat with. Founder and CEO of Raven and Lily, Kirsten Dickerson. This is super exciting because it's one of the very first brands that we looked at when we first started looking at the concept of Saint, and just the whole story behind the brand and the products that she's made, and just how the brand has really grown from strength to strength really was exciting. So we are super chuffed to have had the chance to sit down with her about a month ago and just to chat to her about her story. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks so much. Bye. I don't know if you had a chance to look at our blog, but obviously my sister and
I didn't get a chance to look at your blog. I saw that you do blog, and then she told me a little bit about it, and then I checked out your Instagram and read a few posts so I could get a feel for what you're doing. Yeah. But she doesn't live here, right?
My sister lives in the UK and I live here, so she kind of it's actually more UK based, but I try to obviously showcase brands from here, and then she showcase brands from there, and also
I think what's so awesome is so many great things are happening in the UK.
I know, there's so much happening, which is actually, it's a bit more exciting. I always get a little bit jealous because she finds a lot more brands there that are actually sort of doing the whole ethical, sustainable thing. But we get a lot of brands like from around Europe and also America and stuff. So it's quite exciting, and it's just really us sort of doing a showcase, giving exposure to the brands. And actually one of the first brands when I started looking was actually Raven and Lily, actually.
Really? How did you find out about it?
Well, I just Googled like ethical and sustainable brands, and you were one of the first that sort of came up onto the search, which is really good. And
I am really happy to hear that. When was that you did that?
It was probably about a year and a half, and also through the Ethical Fashion Forum. So we're members as well. And so then I think we'd looked at a few of the brand previews or showcasing, and you were on there as well.
Yeah, so we've always been connected to them in some form or fashion.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, I think they've actually got an amazing platform.
They're
just
still
to show
honing it in, but anytime I meet aspiring designers that are wanting to produce ethically, I send them to start because they have to think about sourcing. And I think it's like, yes, it's great that you want to hire these women, but you have to think about where everything comes from. And that was kind of missing for a while in the whole link of production.
Yeah. So. And was that one of your challenges when you first started out? I mean, because how did you know where to go?
Well, I think because of my background with being a stylist in fashion and then nonprofit work. I've done a lot of nonprofit work. I was pretty familiar with all the different levels of production and how it can have a positive or negative impact on people on the planet. And so we started actually just with jewelry and just and gifts. And then as that was growing, we expanded into more jewelry. And then we expanded into leather bags. Like my
is that one of yours?
Ethiopia, Wow. And that's extremely popular. And still today, our biggest selling items are jewelry and leather bags. Then gifts. And then clothing.
And then clothing.
We're doing well because it's more expensive, but quantity-wise, we don't sell as much. If that makes sense.
Yes.
But, it's new. I guess we've been doing clothing less than 2 years. But we started with just some basic jersey pieces, and then added embroidery by a group in Pakistan of refugees, and then added the dress I'm wearing, which is the eco-dyed silk, and that's a new partnership in Malaysia. And then started working with weavers in the rainforest of Guatemala.
Oh, wow.
And this fall we launched kind of our final one that's working with alpaca fiber in Peru. And so we kind of, and then the one we launched this spring is in Kenya, and we work with the first fair trade factory.
In Kenya.
You've read that about
I have read about like the factory in Kenya.
Yes. So they contacted us because they were all set up, but they just didn't have very many clients yet. And so we weren't going to expand, but when we saw the story, how they're, helped to revive the land and the community, it was such in line with Raven Lily that we went to visit. I last trip to Africa and fell in love with all the work they're doing there, and they're having such a strong impact on the community.
I think they might also be doing work with a South African brand called Lelesso.
Yes, they are.
Yes. So that's how
Where is that one based?
They're based in Cape Town, actually. So they're also.
I would love to.
I know you could have.
Because when I was there, they were producing it, and they were stitching these beads on the end of these beautiful dresses.
Yes, because they do these beautiful. They only do resorts, like a resort range.
Resort
So So they don't actually have a store here. I mean, there is a store that sells their stuff here, which is just a little bit further up from Long Street. It's called Long Street Merchants. I mean, I can Google it for you. So they have a very small sort of capsule collection there, but they mostly export. So a lot into the US. So majority of their stuff is exported out. So yeah.
Where do they sell it?
So I think in the UK, I think they started selling in the US as well. They were having like a few trunk shows there. So it's quite a. I mean, they're really the only sort of fully ethical and sustainable sort of fashion brand in South Africa, actually, and kind of more of the forefront of doing it. And I know that a big part of their production was in Kenya.
With wildlife work.
Yeah. So it's exciting.
That's part of what they pitched to us, that they had been working with them.
Yeah.
And that they were ready to take on more. And so that's why we went. And so we've moved a large part of our fashion production to them.
Okay, wow.
Just because we saw that it can have such a strong impact, and they were really set up. The equipment, the people that are trained, and the impact. And so our current hand-loomed suit sets, that's all from there.
Okay, wow.
But in the fall, we have all kinds of things that come from there.
But you were doing a bit of your jewelry in Kenya, are you? Or
all of the recycled brass, horn, bone jewelry comes from Kenya. Yeah. And then in Ethiopia, it's the recycled bead jewelry. But anything that's not beaded, that has more chains or, that's cast, is from Kenya.
And then, I mean, you do a lot of the companies that you're working with, sort of manufacturers, obviously employ women. And have you done that on sort of purpose, and like in terms of trying to uplift women? Is that
it's always been about women. Yeah. So I'm an advocate for women just in general. College, actually, probably even further back than that. But I've always had a passion to see that women know how valuable they are and how talented they are, and to encourage women of all ages in that area. And then I'm very passionate about children, especially children that are in suffering circumstances. I actually have a daughter adopted from China. Oh, wow. And knowing that a lot of the orphan crisis and suffering comes because the parents are suffering from poverty. Yes, or are HIV or refugees, or something. If I could help support the moms, and that also immediately helps solve the problem that the children face. So my focus became about the moms. Okay. And not all the women are moms that we employ. But but most of them are. So it's just some of them are a little bit younger, more like 18 to early 20s, and they haven't quite gotten to that stage yet, depending on which country they're in. Okay. But yes, that was why I started the company, but I knew that I had to have products that were high quality and fashion forward. And so I worked with designers in LA that came out of fashion, jewelry, and graphic design to launch the company. But we really took a couple of years to do a lot of trial and error to figure out, how do you do this? How do you take like a fair trade model, but try to do something more forward thinking, because we would be asking them to think outside the box, which was super new for every group that we started working with. And it worked because I had trusted relationships with the groups because of my nonprofit work.
So you'd already built that up with
very strong. For over 10 years. Some of them 20 years. I've been working with these nonprofits. Most of them were pretty grassroots. And it was through that work I saw that trend in training women growing. And so then all of a sudden my design world and my background in nonprofit world were colliding. And I went back to LA after a trip to India and had seen that happening in all the groups I visited, and I told my friends, I was like, are you interested in helping me? Because I feel like if we could, I believe in what they're doing, but they don't have market for goods, and they don't have any design input. These are nonprofits. And but once women are trained, it's an opportunity for them to have sustainable income. So that's the idea. But what's happened is now some of the groups are very grassroots. Like, we helped fund and start them, and they've grown. And then some of them are existing, like the one in Kenya. And they are just ready to take it to the next level. And so our partnership kind of works in two different levels. Sometimes it's like trained women that have only a skill because they've come out of a program, and then sometimes it's a group of like skilled artisans that just need somebody to come in and organize them so that they can have access to work. So there's kind of different sort of, the Maasai tribe, is going to operate different than the women from the Kibera slum, and everybody's very different, even if they're in the same country.
And then once you've kind of, for the projects that you've kind of started and grown, grown and sort of taught, the ladies, do you sort of introduce other sort of, is it just for your brand, or is it also
So what we have done is that because a lot of time we're growing so much and scaling so much, is that we've had to be careful in those early years when we were starting to work with the group, that that we talk about design integrity, because that's something that a lot of them are not used to doing. The ones that are established understand, but the newer ones, because once the women start to get work, they get so excited and they can employ more women. It's a great process, but then if another person comes along and places an order, and this has happened to us more than once, we have to make sure they understand they can't do a version of what we're doing. They can't sell. So that's been a process. Really training the groups to understand design integrity. And that's really the point person that we have in each group is our main person. They're an advocate for the women, but they understand all the requirements for production, scaling, quality, on-time delivery, all of that. So we work, and where there's holes in that, then we offer support, training, funding, whatever they need. Send people to work with them. But the other thing is that once things started taking off for us, they of course immediately started to see the benefit of it, and it becomes very exciting. We are growing, and so sometimes they said yes to new groups that have come in and wanted to do things, and then they have not delivered on time because they get off more they can chew. So we're very cautious about if they want to take on more. We have to make sure they understand how much we're growing and what to expect. And so we found that at this stage where we're at, it is not wise for our groups to take on more because it just slows down everything. But my goal would be that as we go and get to a certain stage and their structure is strong enough, that hopefully then they can, like Wildlife Works, have multiple clients and it not affect, but benefit the whole. But I think it takes a while.
It does
to get to that phase.
I think so, definitely. And I mean, because it was interesting, because I thought that you were working with organizations that were already established, and I didn't realize that you were
some
also.
of them are. It's both. Like
so
the leather bag.
So
it's my friend Yami. She's Ethiopian. And so we had a trusted relationship. And on one trip when I was going to work with a jewelry group that we had in Ethiopia, I heard that she was doing leather bags. I actually didn't know her very well, but I knew her in-laws really well. And so I was like, I want to see your daughter-in-law's leather. So they arranged for me to go see. And my friends that I had with me, they bought every single thing that they could take home with them. Yes, like they loved it. And I was like, Yami, what are you doing? She's like, well, I did this because I wanted to employ these two women that she was concerned for. And I'm like, clearly you know what you're doing. This is like really high quality. You already have an eye. I know you have a heart for these women. Do you want to take this to another level? And she said, yes, but I have to think about it. I was like, you think about it, and when you're ready, you contact me. A year later, she emailed me and said, Kirsten, I'm ready. So she took a full year to go through the whole process of establishing herself as an official business, to understand all the paperwork, to do it the right way within Ethiopia, and then has a workshop. And then she contacted me. So all this work happened in the course of a year. And I was like, seriously? And so we didn't have any designs ready. There was no warning. So I took one of her designs that I liked the best, and we went back and forth on improving it. Like, we offered suggestions for quality, and we named the bag the Yami bag after her. And because it's one of her, like a co-collaborative design that we worked on together. And we just immediately started selling out of it over and over again. And so it became very clear, this is going to work. And so that was only 3 years ago. And now, I mean, we have bag deliveries by the thousands every month from her. And she recently was able to hire 20 more women because we had such a large order. And the government stepped in to help. They want to help train, they want to help support her because they want their leather industry to grow and they want the women to be employed, and because she's done everything the right way.
So she did all that research up front and then
So, but I mean, she sells a little bit locally, but we're really her main client, and she's been approached by multiple others, but she's turned them down. And a lot of others will come to her and then they'll want to drive down the prices. I have never done that to her. I don't do that. If we know something won't sell, we say, you tell us, how can we redesign this to get into this? What do we need to do different? How can we change this? But I do not drive the price down on what we've done otherwise. And that's actually the problem. So that even within the social space,
I'm surprised with
but it's happening more to, I think, groups that are not officially Fair Trade or B Corps yet. They're more known as a social or ethical business, but they don't need certification because you cannot do that.
I know.
If you have a certification. You cannot do that. And I don't think people realize that. So when I recognize that's going, I think it's because that's how fast fashion works. And even though you're helping people, you cannot buy into the fast fashion model.
Yeah,
you have to resist
exactly.
it. You have to train people to think differently.
Yeah.
And you have to say, I've said no to so many big orders.
Yeah.
And so many things because the women weren't ready.
Yeah.
Or I knew it wasn't a good match and I wanted to grow the right way.
Yeah.
So we've grown slower than we maybe could have because
Okay.
I didn't take some funding sometimes, or I held back, but then all of a sudden we're growing really fast because things are in place.
Yeah, everything.
And they're kind of ready to go. So now I'm getting funding because we're sort of ready to take things to a much bigger level. And we have 19 artisan partnerships. Started with the 2 in 2011. And now we have 19. And we were started employing, I think, 75 women. And now we have 1,500, more than that. And that represents thousands of children.
Yes.
And then the whole community impact in some places where we've been working the longest because it's changing the way they view the women.
Yes.
Because those women are becoming successful and impacting their families and their community.
Exactly.
They're giving back
immediately
to not just their family but the families around them.
Yeah.
So they're really strengthening how women are viewed.
So I mean, you've actually grown pretty fast. I mean, so do you really think? I mean, you do think that people are
I think
sort
it's
of
not as fast as like what a fast company would be considered, or but we're growing over 100% from last year to this year.
Yeah.
So that's significant.
That
growth.
is significant, definitely.
But it's still within a space of us heavily controlling communication with our groups if they're ready, and never saying yes to any orders until we've communicated with the groups to make sure they understand and they have the chance to say, no, we can't do this, or this is what we can do, because we want them to be successful.
Yeah.
We don't want to put pressure on them by giving them a huge order and then them compromising.
And then
on the other end, we have all those accountabilities built in, so they know if they ever compromise, we actually won't work with you anymore.
Yeah.
So we have that kind of don't ever think that's the answer. The answer would be to push back to us if they were not ready, and not to compromise anything on your end to try to receive an order. So because of that, we've had to grow a little bit slower sometimes, but now we are only utilizing a third of the capacity of our groups.
Wow.
So that is why I'm confident, because today, that's how much more they could grow.
They can grow,
And so in 5 years, they'll be able to continue to grow that much more. So that's just today.
Yeah.
And so I think it just encourages me that so much impact can happen.
Yes, definitely.
If I can get the funding and really implement some of the things that we see are working in the next level.
And then
they're ready for it, and that just means more and more women are going to benefit.
No,
more
absolutely.
Families, so, yeah.
And so, I mean, do you think the public is sort of becoming a lot more aware of ethical and sustainability within clothing and
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we joined the Ethical Fashion Forum in, I guess, 2009, early stages. So we didn't launch into the official for-profit benefit corporation model until 2011. But earlier, we were partnering with a nonprofit to kind of figure it out.
Okay.
We did not use the word ethical because not one person in the States had any idea what we were talking about.
Was.
That was not a coined term. And the only thing they understood was fair trade, but they immediately equated it with hippie.
I was going to say, definitely hippie.
Yes. And so it was just such a crazy time. So we just talked about empowering women through design. That was our tagline. So we're trying to figure out. And then it's been so funny to see how many brands attach empowering women. Something. So it all starts to sound similar. So we actually don't have the tagline on everything anymore because it's been copied by a lot of people. And so that's kind of where we're always having to think ahead, stay fresh. And while I welcome and want to encourage other groups to emerge, I want them to do their own things. That's what I'm always telling them. We mentor a lot of younger ethical fashion companies and businesses starting, but we always say, take a step back. Don't do a version of what you've seen. You must bring something new to the market that could be sustainable and unique, and then really focus on your branding and how you tell your story, and do not copy and paste from my website or somebody else's. You absolutely must make this fresh and unique for you. And at the moment you start to see it does look like other things, and you need to redirect and try to stay unique and fresh. So,
well, I think there's so much opportunity as well. I mean, there's in the sort of grand escape of things, there's not that many brands that are sort of playing in this field. So if you can do it well and you can be unique, then it's good. So and there's enough space for everyone. And I think as long as design's at the forefront, I mean, as long as you're putting beautiful,
they're diverse.
exactly.
I don't know what you see in the UK and here, but that's the problem I see in the States. Too many things sound and look the same after a while, and I'm concerned that it becomes a trend.
Yes.
So if people don't stay unique and fresh and innovative within the design part of it, it will peak. And so I'm keep pushing people, like there's a girl I'm going to meet with when I get back to the States, and she's, she sent me an email, and she quoted me, not knowing that she quoted me throughout the email. And my team was like, Kirsten, what's happening? I was like, she doesn't realize it. She's read so many of my things, and she's obviously heard, and she's spent a lot of time, and so I will absolutely meet with her. She's going to come down from another city to come meet with us. But I was very quick. I was like, I know you probably don't realize it was subconsciously, but I really want you to think of a unique way to share what you're doing, because you sound just like me. And then she showed me her designs, and they were nice, but they look very similar to so many other brands. And so I listed all these brands. I go, you need to understand and go to all these websites, because you have a great idea that you want to employ refugees in the States, and I think it's a needed thing, but you are only going to sell to your friends once, and then you're not going to have anybody come back, because they're going to see this everywhere
else. And that's, I think.
And she said, you were the only person that's ever given me any feedback that hasn't been 100% positive. And that's the thing, is that so many people don't want to say anything negative because it's from the heart. And she has such a good intention, but I know it's not going to work.
Exactly.
If her design is not excellent and her story is not unique. And so I really want to help her, because I think there's a need to employ these refugees in Dallas. And so we want to help her take a step back and try to
and then just read.
It's like, I know it looks like a lot, but it's really sellable. I'm like, but it's not sustainable. Sellable today, but not in a year, probably. So
definitely. I think that's the hardest part. I think for brands to find that sort of balance and that uniqueness, because, like you said, there are like a lot of brands doing similar things. They may be using the same suppliers, or and they've got a good story behind. They want to help and sort of empower people, but you've got to find the right product as well. You've got to have a unique, beautiful product that people are just going to go, oh, I want that. And it's not necessarily that they're buying it because it's sustainable. They just love it first, and then afterwards they realize, oh, but it's also doing good. It's that's what it just. You feel good all the way.
I think that's what's going to work. We opened up a new storefront in the most popular shopping area of Austin in May. And I don't know if you've seen photos of it.
I saw some pictures on your website, I think.
So the goal of it was to create an experience where it's a beautiful architecture and design when you walk into the store. And that it then showcase the work of all the women, and you don't know immediately unless you're familiar with Raven Lily. So you just may walk in, and hopefully the design, the aesthetic capture you, and then you take one step further and you start to encounter these stories. But hopefully your first experience is that it's beautiful. And I think captivating.
That's absolutely what I always think is the most important thing, because I think people that's why we buy things. We see something and it captures our eye, and we're just like, that's why we want it. And then afterwards, and this beautiful story unfolds, and then it's just I definitely should get that.
That's actually the conversation I had at lunch. We were prepping for the talk later, and the lady that organized it, she said, Kirsten, the first time I owned Raven Lily is that I bought it at a conference, and I didn't know there was a story. She said, I bought it because I thought it was she's a fashionista. She's like, I just bought it because I thought it was awesome. And she's like, and then when I went back that night to my hotel room and read the story, I couldn't believe it. And so she's like, that's why I became a fan. I'm like, I love that. I mean, that's exactly what I want to have happen. Exactly, she's a repeat customer now, and she's done, and she's just like in. So I'm happy. It's not going to appeal to everyone, and that's okay. I think that the women that can relate to Raven and Lily, that's going to be my audience, and then the other brands will capture other styles and relate to other people. So that's what needs to happen. Definitely.
Well, I think that's all from my side. I mean, thank you so much for the interview. So there you have it, guys. Hope you enjoyed our very first podcast. We look forward to bringing you a lot more in the future with lots of exciting and inspiring brands. And so watch this space. Thanks so much. Bye.